Morning, Joy, Amber, and Jeff. How we doing? Morning, Joy. Oh, I am rookie move. Good morning, Central Indiana and across the globe. Never know who joins us anymore. Welcome to Porch Time. Saturday morning, let's chat. A little coffee with Kevin. Hello, Jeannie. What's up, Jeff? Saturday morning. I'm already loaded. I've already had a ton of coffee and breakfast, and so I'm wired for sound. Good to go this morning. How we doing out there? 20 years ago, September 11th, 2001. A little bit after 8:46. What was it? 8:46 Tuesday morning. It changed everything, in my opinion. And we've been kind of spiraling out of control since then. And right before I pushed the go live button, I agree. God bless America. Right before I pushed the go live button, I called Logan, who is my youngest. She's on her way to school because she's 20 today, or this week. She just turned 20 September 4th. She was a week old, basically. And I was at work when this, Bill was a freshman in high school. My youngest daughter was a week old when it occurred. And I can remember, and I'll go into stories here in a little bit, but I can remember leaving work and going home and thinking, what kind of world have we created for our kids? I remember saying something like that to my wife at the time. 20 years ago. It seems like it should have just been last week, and sometimes it seems like it was 50 years ago. A lot of emotion still wrapped it for a lot of us, still wrapped up into this day. I can't watch those videos they show and the documentaries and things like that. I don't want to get into the who's and the whys, and I'm more so I want to praise the LEOs, the FD, first responders. Good morning, PJ. The military that has had to deal with the aftermath of right on the spot or years after. Could you imagine being a fireman in New York City that morning, and how you can see those buildings forever, and seeing what transpired when the first one hit and the second one hit? You know you're going. Could you imagine going what's going through your mind, and then your loved ones see it, so they know you're going? Chris lives in upstate New York, and he was in the military with me over in Germany, and I appreciate him coming on. Anytime, Chris. Anytime. If you want to call in or type it out, you know how to get a hold of me if need be, buddy. But someone was, I don't know, a friend of mine was saying, "Oh, it's hard. This day's hard." And my one thing I always think of, they show the parking lot days later, the cars that get on the ferries that come across to bring people to the city, and all the cars in the still parking lot. Some of the in this one area were still there days later. You know why? Because they were in those buildings. You want to talk about hard? Being that relative or that wife or that husband, going there and seeing that and having to get your loved one's car. Morning, James. That'd be hard. Went to work. All they did is went to work. They weren't military. They were day traders and financial people and all sorts of businesses. I worked all day and had no idea people were jumping till right. They're just normal, everyday folks that went to work that day. And like I said, we're not here to discuss the who's and the whys. We're here to praise those and pay honor to those that didn't make it home that night, whether it be fire, or PD, or first responders, or individuals in the buildings, or the military that has had to take care of it all the way across the world since. Hello, Colton. Hello, Stephanie. It is a tough day for many, many folks across the country today. But there's still, as tough as it is for a lot of people that still remember and still believe and will never forget, there's still quite a few that irk me because they're like, I don't forget things like that. And it's just like the next thing I have written down here. September 11th, 2012. Ambassador Stevens, Mr. Smith, Wood, and Doherty. Benghazi. Same day, 11 years later. Stuff like that you just don't forget. And we can discuss, we can chit-chat about it, tell our stories. Was working at Twig at the time. Back then, we didn't have phones that were mini TVs. The Morning Jeff, the first, I think it was Steve Stevens, said, hey, a small plane has hit one of the Twin Towers. And we kind of yucked about it because you're thinking crop duster, side of that building, no big deal. By the time I got back to my x-ray department, turned on the radio just in time to hear where a second plane. And from that point on, I knew we were at war. The first thought was, I want to be back in the military. The second thought was, I want to go home with my family. Because at that point in time, Logan was 1 week old. I went home to 3 babies in diapers. Because the twins were a year and a half old, and Logan was just born. And I left and went home to be with them. Good morning, Michelle. So, and I'm sure there's thousands of stories just like that took place of people all across, millions of stories, where you were, what you did, what you were doing. And when I got home and you turn the TV on and you see those images of 2 of the most iconic buildings in our country ablaze, it was just, those images will be etched in our minds and our hearts forever. Forever. I was working Arvin's night shift, went home and just went to bed. Yeah, it's just, my first thought was to tell my then wife was, look at the world we just brought our kids into. We had a week-old baby. I had to wrote this down because 2,977 people did one thing wrong that day. They went to work. They went to work and didn't make it home. Now, if you're in the military or the police and things like that, there's always a huge risk of not making it home. And that's why we pay tribute to them every day. But if you're a financial advisor or a coffee shop worker or something like that in a building like that, that's the last thing you think of. Heart-wrenching. It was a punch in the gut to this country and to the world. I had a couple friends earlier I was speaking to across the globe and telling their stories where they were at, and it was just an awful event for them to see as well. and they're not from here. And I mean, Benghazi makes me mad in a different direction because that should have never transpired. Good morning, Angela. How are you, dear? I think Angie just had her 29th birthday again recently. I was going to do a cake and jump out of it, but I've done that for her so many times. It just gets old. I was in my office at Harmon, and the company president comes in to ask if I had TV in my office. I thought it was a trick. He said on his way to work, someone in the plane hit the Twin Towers. Yeah. A day we should never forget and always remember those brave men and women, New York City's finest, that ran to those buildings, ran into that building. Without hesitation. I think one of the chaplains, the story I read, he was an older gentleman who did perish on the scene. He was giving rights to people as the buildings were crumbling down around him, and he wouldn't leave. And it eventually, cost him, but he wasn't going anywhere. He wasn't done with his work. Just some unbelievable stories on that day that happened, and some of the events surrounding it. Hello, Danette. Hello, Jason. Not our specific, but across the country, our PD and our FD. Look at the crap they get dealt with today. But when two buildings are on fire and about to collapse, they're the first ones that are going to run in there. They're the first ones that are going to say, I'm going in there to do my job, to save somebody. And the crap that they get to this day across the country. That's why I back the blue. That's why I try to say nice things every time I can about our FDs and our EMTs and our first responders. I'm trying to get some of our EMTs from around the county in here because they don't get the attention the PD and the FD do, but we're going to try to get them all in here eventually. Back the blue, exactly, Natasha. Those scenes of those firemen running into those buildings. I mean, you got to know, they know the elevators are out. They know they're going to climb up. How many? Mark Wayman, we as a country remember, but have we learned, Mark? That is such a good question. Because I think part of us have, but part of us haven't. We love them all. The sad part was this is how we all started Afghanistan. By hear people say Bush started the war, saying what we say forget. Yeah, Tony, I agree. I don't want to get into the 100% hows and the whys because that's an argument. It'll lead to argument from some and some. I'm here to pay tribute and honor those that didn't make it home that day, whether it be civilian or police or the firemen or the military after that went 3/4 of the way around the planet. "20 years ago, as Mark just asked, have we learned anything by it?" Exactly. That is exactly right, Natasha. I was on my couch with pneumonia watching the news after first plane hit. When the second plane hit, my daughter was sitting lap, and I just cried and held her. I just think those firemen, knowing I don't know how many floors, 116, 120, 200, whatever the numbers of floor, thinking they're going to run up that inferno, up those stairs to try to get to people that are cut off because an airplane flew through the middle of it. And they're in full gear. They're dragging hoses. They're dragging medical gear. And I'm like, whew. Some of them got up there and saved people and made it all the way back down. Some of them did not. What you said, Bob? Exactly as Natasha said, they have families too. They got people at home waiting on them. 110 floors. I don't even like taking 110 steps right now. Could you imagine running into a building that is on fire with jet fuel? No electricity. There's no elevators. 110 floors, dragging hoses. Heroes at Pentagon and Flight 93. Yes, sir. Not forget about them also, Jeff. Morning, Bob. Dragging hoses and medical gear and then coming down with injured personnel, working on them, trying to make it down the steps, get out of the building, get them to safety, and then the whole damn thing collapses on top of you. I agree, Tony. What is it? Bravery doesn't mean you're not scared. We're all scared. It's what you do with it once you're scared. You continue on, or you sit there and stay scared. Yeah, Natasha, the Heroes on Flight 93 that saved so many. They want to say that was headed towards the White House or Camp David or somewhere 93 was. So they certainly did what was necessary. I had a kid a week old that day. And like I said, I just talked to her when I first started the show. I just talked to her right before I popped on live. She's 20. Less than a week before we were at the hospital giving birth. And I can remember when I finally got home after I left work, and I asked my ex, I was like, look, what kind of world have we brought our kids into? The plane that was headed to killed so many more. Yep. I believe that too, Natasha. Yeah, wasn't it Beam or Bream? I'm sorry, I'm forgetting his name. Todd Bremer. I apologize. That one of the last words he had was "let's roll" or "let's go." Those are heroes. That's being afraid and still doing what you have to do. Everybody's afraid. Todd Beamer. Thank you, Mark. Still doing what you have to do, no matter how scared you are. Because that gentleman knew what their fate was. But he knew if he left it go on, more people were going to perish. Lots of people do not realize the things that police, firemen, and EMT take on with them. 100%, Tony. 100%. Good morning, Teresa. Good morning, January. 20 years. There are times when I look back at that and I think there's no way in hell that was 20 years ago. It's just like 10 years ago. And then there's times I'm like, was that when 30 years? How long ago was that? Isn't that a weird thing? But it has been 20 years since that day. It feels like yesterday at times. To me, it does. The Benghazi thing, that eats at me in a different way. The military side of me. Because I think there was so much more we could have done. And that's another discussion we're really not going to get into, but there was so much more we could have done there. And I follow Chris Pronto Tonto, as they would call him. Follow him on Twitter and a couple other things, and he's a good follow. He was one of the gentlemen on top of one of the buildings that made it out. How you doing, Bill? Bill's an Afghan vet, a good friend, a good man. Thank you for your service, Bill. My mother got to listen to the cockpit recording. They were getting control of the plane, just not in time, according to the black box. This mother, they were headed to the Capitol. Okay. Yeah, I wasn't for sure on that, Natasha. Saved lives, no matter what happened. They were destined to hit somewhere with a lot of people, and unfortunately, or fortunately, Todd and the others were able to do what they did for my family. And September 11th is why I eventually joined. There's so many young men and women across the country that served, that followed your footsteps, like that, Bill, that September 11th was their I'm joining day. And I mean, like I said, I at work, I heard the first plane hit, and everybody thought, it's a crop duster. Well, I wonder, minimal damage, I'm sure. And then when the second plane hit, I was like, okay, we're at war, and I want to go back in. And I went home, and I have 3 kids in diapers, so I wasn't about to leave. Yep, I was going to get to that and a couple other things today, a little bit later. Natasha, we have prayers of the Deckard family, of course, and then Ira Schwartz. I graduated with Ira. I played ball with Ira. I grew up with him. I think he was on one of my first teams in 3rd or 4th grade. And you talk about a ball of fire, one of the funnier human beings ever, that could make you laugh just by showing up. Ira was it. And as we got older, when we graduated, there was 9 of us from our class that went to the military. Ira went in the Navy, and I didn't see him until after I got out, and here's how long, I'm gonna date ourselves here. When Walmart was still over here on this side of the highway, I think I saw him, I think that's where I saw him. He was in a truck, and I think he was on leave or just getting ready to retire or getting home for some reason. But I hadn't seen him. It's forever. Well, his best buddy, friend of mine, a mutual friend, Jesse Fisher, and I were in Germany together, and Jesse and I had hooked up one weekend while we were both over there, and spent the weekend seeing if we could drink all the beer in Germany, which we couldn't, but we tried. But Jesse and him were buddies from the word go, wrestled together and everything for years. And Ira was one of a kind. He was a great guy, a great man, a patriot. Just, I can remember some of the silly stuff. Yeah, I think an M80 went off in his face, or a pack of firecrackers, and because you're kids, you do stupid shit, for lack of better words. It burned all of his eyebrows off, and for like a week, he was walking around with nothing up there. It was longer than a week, but I was one of a kind, and yeah, I'm just telling you. For those of you who don't know him, read some of the information about him that's been posted. talked to Christina, his wife. Just a good man, good dude, and he will be missed. He's a classmate of mine, and it's just shocking to even hear. Listen to recordings from those who called to say goodbye reminds us, yeah. 100%. You never know. You never know. It's been a tough week for this community already, and then to top it off, the 20-year anniversary of 9/11. Thoughts and prayers with the Deckard family, of course, and then the Schwartz family also. Yes, sir, Tony, 100%. Very sorry, Michelle. Tough week in this community and for our nation. But as Teresa said, we often get to say enough and show it because the Christ spend this day making others feel special. The best way to honor those lost is to make it a day of family, community. Those who wage this kind of war will never understand the kind of love. And I agree with that. When you prepare for one thing, the day of sadness, the other fits in face. I don't think it's anything you never prepare for. I think you handle it the best. Each and every one of us are going to do it differently. You handle it the best way you can, and you try to get through the. I don't think the hole in the heart is ever filled. I think you just learn to move around it. I did see a post yesterday that said we should treat every like December 12th. That goes back to what Mr. Wayman said earlier. Did we learn from it? And I say no. I would love to see the stats on crime, not only in New York City, but across the country on September 12th, 13th, and 14th. I would love to see those stats. Love to know a national comparison to years prior during that stretch of time frame. But September 12th, 13th, and 14th, and a few days after, I think, was it baseball? Well, it was baseball and football. They both came back, and some of the... I think Tillman joined because of 9/11, which was another one. Mac. Lost my dad in 1994 to a work accident. Still hurts. Time makes it easier, but it's never gone. I agree 100%, Mac. You know, I'd never wait another. Right. I'd love to see the stats on crime because 12th, 13th, 14th, and a few weeks beyond, there were no Republicans or Democrats or conservatives or liberals or any of that. We were Americans. And we bonded. We came together. And we were ready to defend this rock we live on to the end. Bar none. And the patriotism and the love of our country came out of each and every one of us, with many, as Bill and countless others that I know joined shortly thereafter because of the event. But we've strayed so far from that in such a very short amount of time. That's yeah, they cut all fly. You ever see that video of them? It's the radars, combined radars from across the country, as they show them clearing the skies from coast to coast. That is freaky. Versus freaky amount of the aircraft that are actually in the sky on a daily basis. And then to see those radar screens go completely clear is just unbelievable. Let's not also forget September 11th, 2012, Ambassador Stevens, USF Officer Sean Smith, two contractors, Tyrone Wood and Glenn Daughtry, gave it all in Benghazi. I won't get into the political side of that because it'll just make my blood boil. But another group of heroes that did make it home on September 11th, a few years later, from 9/11, as we call the first incident. Just a tough day for a lot of people across this country. Police, fire, EMTs, military. Some of the families just... I don't know why, and I brought it up earlier. They show, I'll never forget a picture, and I want to say it was in New Jersey, where the ferry takes the people across to the city and drops them off right there, and they walk up to where the towers were. But it was a shot of a parking lot days later, and of course nobody went to work for a couple weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks in that area for a while, but these cars were still there because that's where they were parked Tuesday morning, 9/11, 2001, and they didn't make it home. And that picture is stuck in my mind more so than any. More so than any since then. What's up, Keaton? How you doing, sir? Hope all is right up at the Great Lakes in Chicago. Looking forward to see you come home soon for a little bit, where you go to your duty station. It did seem very quiet for a long time, Tony. Didn't hear much traffic coming out of Indianapolis for a while, that is for sure, once they grounded everything. Anyway. Thoughts and prayers to all those firemen and police, EMTs that put it out there every day, that wake up and go to a job that they could not, there's a possibility they may not make it home from. A lot of us don't have that. A lot of us don't have a job like that. Only a few I can think of. Military, fire, police. What's up, Ricky? So hats off to them. For sure. As I forget who said it, but I wish we could go back to this country September 12th, 2001 and become one again as a nation. That's one way we learn. That's one way we get better as people. Hello, Wendy. Because the current path we're on, I don't see it. Deepest condolences and thoughts and prayers to the Deckard family, the Schwartz family. We lost two good men this week. Ira was a close personal friend that I graduated with Hadn't seen in a while, but every time I ran into him, he had that little mischievous smile that he had forever. And he was a hell of a guy. If you get a chance to read some of the information about him and what he did after high school, read up on him, because Ira will be missed, as will Mr. Deckard. Just a tough week for our community. Unbelievably sad. And yeah, to top it off, it's 20-year anniversary of 9/11. Anyway, anybody got anything else? God bless the families, the loved ones. Day the world stop turning. I agree. Prayer. I know many out there believe in that, and there's some that don't, and that's fine. I'm not here Bible thumping. I don't go to church on Sundays. I kind of keep to myself, but I know who my Savior is, and I believe in prayer, and I still think prayer works, and it may not always work the way we want it to work, the way we think it should work. And then someday maybe you'll know the reason, and I'll know the reason why it went the way it did. But even if it doesn't work to your likings 100%, it always brings a calmness to me somewhat. It always brings me down a notch or two from where I'm at emotionally, mentally, wherever. Because it certainly can't do you wrong. Even if you don't believe, try it. Because I do believe, and I believe in the power of prayer. And I think that is something that this country needs to do as a whole at times. It certainly wouldn't help. It wouldn't hurt. Especially right now. Hello, Justina. Love to all. Thank you, Wendy. All right, guys. It is actually a halfway decent Saturday morning. I hope it doesn't rain on us. God has answered many prayers, especially the last 19 months. The power of prayer is real. Jim Allen, God bless you, sir, and I agree 100%. As you too, Teresa, and she said, Teresa said earlier, go out and do something exceptional today and pray for folks and be kind. Turn a day with a negative past into a positive gain for so many. That's all you can do. Do you remember those images, those firemen and police officers running into those buildings? That's like seeing the military running into the fire. That's their battle. They ran into the fire. And that's a hero. I still believe this is the greatest nation in the history of our country, and I still believe in the people that live in it. And I think someday we will get back to where we were and head in the right direction. I don't know if we're there yet. I know, Faith, isn't that shocking? It's like I said, some days it seems like it was yesterday. Sometimes it seems like it was 50 years ago. And when the number comes out 20, you're just like, and then talk to my daughter, my youngest, she turned 20 this past week. She was a week old when it happened. So You guys go out and have a good day. Spread the love today. Smile at somebody. Say thank you. Do something maybe that you wouldn't ordinarily do. Do something positive today to spread a little love and joy on a day that there's enough heartache across our country and across the globe right now. We'll never forget 9/11, whether it be the Twin Towers or Benghazi. You guys have a wonderful day. God bless you all. I love each and every one of you. Thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate it. You have no idea. Prayers to the Deckard family and the Schwartz family. We may be on tomorrow morning very early for a show, waiting. I'm pretty sure we have a show tomorrow at 10 o'clock that you're going to be very interested in hearing from. So God bless you guys. Enjoy the day. Love you guys.